The most famous structure on Earth was supposed to be torn down. It cost almost nothing to build, and it paid for itself in about a year. So here's the strange part. The single most expensive thing about the Eiffel Tower isn't the iron, or the view, or the history. It's keeping it from falling apart. So, how much does it really cost to keep the Eiffel Tower standing? Chios to Theedn Coast Ofevrything in 1889. Gustave Eiffel built a 330-meter tower of wrought iron for the Paris World's Fair. It cost around 7.8 million gold francs, and Eiffel paid for most of it himself, in exchange for the right to sell tickets. Within roughly a year, the crowds had paid him back. But the permit was temporary, 20 years, and then the tower was to be dismantled and sold for scrap. It survived for one unglamorous reason. Someone bolted an antenna to the top, and a giant iron aerial turned out to be very useful. The most romantic object in the world was saved by radio, and that left Paris with a problem it still has today. Because once you decide to keep a 300-ton iron lattice standing in the open air forever, you've signed up for a bill that never stops arriving. Start with the thing you'd never guess. Iron rusts. Leave wrought iron out in the weather, and it corrodes, it weakens, and eventually it fails. The Eiffel Tower has only one defense against that, and it isn't clever engineering. It's paint. Roughly every 7 years, the entire tower is repainted. Not sprayed, painted. By hand, by brush, by a crew suspended on the iron for the better part of a year. They use around 60 tons of paint per campaign, the weight of about 10 elephants, dragged up the structure and laid on by hand. Because painting controls the thickness that protects the metal. And here's the craftsman's trick. It's painted in 3 shades of the same color. Darkest at the bottom, lightest at the top. From the ground, against the bright sky, your eye blends them into one flat, perfect tone. The uniform tower you photograph is an optical illusion, maintained by hand. It used to be a routine job. It isn't anymore. The oldest coats contain lead, and stripping them now means sealing the tower in containment and removing hazardous waste. The most recent full repaint, the one timed around the 2024 Olympics, has been reported at around 60 million euros. 60 million euros for paint, because the paint isn't decoration. It's the only thing standing between the world's most famous monument and rust. Paint buys time. It doesn't stop the clock. Underneath, the tower is held together by around 2.5 million rivets, and every one of them is a point where water can sit and iron can fail. So the tower is permanently inspected and, piece by piece, renewed. Corroded plates are cut out and replaced. Rivets are swapped. Sections are reinforced. It's slow, unglamorous, and constant, and over a century and a half. So much of the original iron has been worked on that the tower you see is, in a very real sense, a tower that keeps being rebuilt around its own outline. Across the cycles, the structural work, the inspection, the ironwork, the reinforcement, runs on the order of $10 million a year. The shape never changes. The metal underneath it changes all the time. Y47 natural pause, slow push up the empty lattice at dawn. Then there's the part of the tower most visitors stand inside without thinking about the lifts. Some of the mechanisms hauling people up the Eiffel Tower date back to 1889. They are engineering antiques. And you cannot order spare parts for an antique. These lifts carry around 6 million people. A year up a 19th Century structure, which means they have to be flawless. Refurbishing just one of them has cost in the region of 30 million euros. A single elevator, costing more than the original tower did to build. Spread across their cycles, the lifts cost something like $5 million a year to keep running. $5 million. So the view feels effortless. And then there's simply keeping the doors open. Around 6 million visitors a year. A workforce of hundreds. Security. Cleaning. Insurance on the most photographed object on the planet. And the lights. The famous sparkle is around 20,000 bulbs, firing every hour after dark. Bulbs that burn out. That have to be replaced on a structure where every job happens at height. Wu 6C30s. Natural pause, the lit tower from across the river, still and gold. Add it together, the staff, the energy, the security, the cleaning, the insurance, and day-to-day operations run somewhere around $28 million a year. None of it makes the tower taller. All of it keeps the tower open. So, let's add up the real bill. The paint, fighting the rust. The ironwork, holding the shape. The antique lifts. The staff, the power, the lights, the insurance. Put it together. And keeping the Eiffel Tower standing and open costs in the region of $50 million a year. That's why it's run like a business, not a monument. It has to earn, from 6 million tickets a year, enough to keep paying a bill that never ends. Which means, roughly, that of every ticket you buy, about $8 never pays for the view at all. It pays to fight rust. And now the number that reframes everything. The tower was built once, cheaply, and paid for itself in a year. But it has been repainted around 20 times, rebuilt rivet by rivet, and kept alive for 135 years. The cost of keeping the Eiffel Tower has, many times over, dwarfed the cost of building it. It was built once. It is paid for again every single year. Picture it this way. Roughly every 7 years, by hand, with a brush, someone repaints all 330 meters of it, 60 tons of paint. 3 shades blended into one, no machine allowed to touch it. It is the world's most famous structure, and it survives the way a wooden ship survives, or a cathedral survives, not by standing still, but by being endlessly, lovingly, expensively renewed. Stop painting it, and within a few decades the most romantic object on Earth would rust into a ruin. The Eiffel Tower isn't preserved. It's kept alive. That's the hidden cost of the Eiffel Tower. Not the iron. Not the view. Not the history. The real price is the bill that arrives forever. The $50 million a year it takes to lose a slow, beautiful war against rust. The cheapest thing about the Eiffel Tower was building it. Everything since has been the cost of refusing to let it fall. That's what we do here. We find the bill that isn't on the receipt for the things you thought you already understood. Next time, a bridge that costs more to repaint than it cost to build. And a paint crew that, the day they finish, simply start again at the beginning. Chiost ATL Ace. Subscribe. The hidden cost of everything.